Alrighty, now we're live. How's everyone doing?
You didn't even do the countdown, huh?
My bad. Yeah, I was just going right into it. I know I'm a little late. It's on me.
The
All good.
hose man. Late.
Yeah, I'll admit it. I thought I timed it up perfectly and had a couple lights stop me on the way back home. So we're here doing a quick live just to react to the football game. Obviously not the best of days for Oklahoma. I guess I could just kick it to you guys while I'm going through here and about to tweet this out.
Brandon, you were there live. Can you speak
what was it like in Lawrence?
Yeah.
Miserable, cold, raining. Yeah, it sucked. Today sucks. Like, it is what it is. I mean, I don't know. I feel like as a whole, we didn't play that great. We ran the ball really well, but we couldn't stop Kansas's run game. Yeah, I don't understand. Last week I came to Jeff Levy's defense. He was horrible today. I was talking to Brum before we hopped on live. Dylan Gabriel attempted 19 passes the entire game, and 7 of them came on the last drive when we absolutely had to throw. I understand the weather sucked, but I don't understand how they don't attempt any passes. Kansas played in the same game, same weather, and they threw 32 passes. He wasn't very effective, but they weren't afraid to throw the ball. We were very one-dimensional. But then when Downs got that pick with 2.5 minutes, that should have been the moment. That should have been, all right, let's win now. It's been a horrible game. That pick is huge. Let's win the game. There's 2.5 minutes left, and we call 3 straight dives when they have 3 timeouts and giving the ball right back. It was disgusting.
I mean, that sums it up pretty perfectly. It was interesting that it seemed like Oklahoma really got rolling with the running, the Russian attack. The offensive line played halfway decent, but also, talking before then, when I think it was the drive that Kansas took the lead, what was it? When they got the 2 personal fouls on top of each other, the 30 yards worth of penalties, it was just.
There was 3 on that drive because they called the most ridiculous targeting penalty in the history of the world on what would have been a 4th and goal instead of made it 1st and goal.
That, and then, OU ended up having, 100 yards of penalties in this game? Let me see.
It was over 100 yards in
11
9
for
penalties. Yeah, over 11. Holy fuck.
Yeah, 11 for 101. It just, I don't know. It just couldn't figure it out. And when it was time to make some calls, Levy was doing these bizarre 2-point conversion plays, running east to west, not going up the field. I don't know. I don't understand.
I'm with you there. The thing that I'm most frustrated about, and I texted Brandon this, I felt vindicated because we had that possession after the Ethan Downs touchdown or pick within the 50, didn't move the ball. Like, obviously not great, but how do you? It was the situational stuff because I don't think that fire Levy makes sense for Oklahoma, short or long term. Eventually, he'll probably move on to be a head coach somewhere, which, good for him when that happens. But Levy's a good offensive coordinator, but the situational awareness is just not there. 3rd downs, you end up passing early in the game. And towards the later part, you start figuring out your run game. That was at the end of the half when Joel Fruit came in as a running back for the fumble, or start of the second half. I don't really remember the time of the game, but
it was 3rd quarter.
Tawi Walker's working, and then you put someone in that I know he was making plays early in the game, but that seemed to be more of a gadget thing than a sustainable thing, especially when Tawi is going. Why take it out of his hands other than if he needs a breather? after a long run or after you went 4 or 5 plays in a row. You really gotta. It's a situational stuff. I think overall, Lebby's a good offensive coordinator, but he's really got to figure out when he can or when he should call some of those plays he does.
It's just, yeah, it's really he struggles with the situational stuff. I mean, I agree. I mean, there's sometimes it just doesn't make any sense, and I mean, I don't
He called a
know.
really bad game today.
And it's just kind of the same thing. It just seems like they didn't fully trust Gabriel to make the throws after he threw the pick six, and I think Gabriel was compensating for the wind and it being cold, and it made him pat the ball a second time, and he threw that horrendous interception. And then after that, it was just like, oh no, we're not doing it, and it worked for a while. But I mean, and then I don't know, running Javon or not Javonte Barnes, Jalil Farouk out of the backfield and getting popped like that. I mean, I guess it could have happened if he caught the ball, but it's just the turnovers. It's hard to win football games when you turn the ball over. What was it, 3 times? Typically, when you turn the ball over 3 times,
like we had opportunity after opportunity, and just it is what it is. Sucks.
You're muted.
My bad. Defense didn't play amazing either, and Venables kind of owned up to it during his press conference. He said, and I was screaming at the TV when it happened, but on the 4th down play on their game-winning drive, like, why not call a timeout? Kenai Walker was very clearly confused on what needed to go on in pass coverage. And I don't think it was maybe not so much poor execution, but not the right guys out there. Maybe needed to flip personnel, or at least just like bring them all in and kind of tell them like, hey, this is what we need out of you right now. You got to basically just stick to your guy. I know it sounds pretty simple, but when you're out there in the heat of the moment, and I'm sure it's not the easiest thing to just remember, gotta play a little bit riskier there. And I mean, I'll be honest, I was the one tweeting out most of the game, if not all of it. I don't really know if you guys were on there at all tweeting for the 2 Point Sports account, but it was frustrating to watch some of the things, like 3rd down, you go on the outside defense. They made some good plays, and we knew like they were going to run the ball, and Kansas ran the ball really well. So it's tough to say that Oklahoma didn't give them the game. They earned that win. But it's definitely a game that OU should have and could have won, even with all the penalty yards, very questionable calls by the referees, like that completed catch at the end of the first half by Skinner for Kansas.
How is that not?
It wasn't like the way that they explained it on TV. It wasn't complete because he never reestablished himself. But they said it was confirmed, so you kind of just got to roll with it. And it was dumb.
It is tough, but I will argue that the defense played well enough to win today. Mm-hmm. I mean, they were put in tough spots. I mean, especially I can't remember, was it Stripling that had the fumble on the kickoff? I mean, and they were able to stop him there, and Jalil Farouk as well. I mean, they were put in horrible spots. And not that they bailed out the team every time, but they made some stops through there. And then also Stutzman being hurt too.
Have you guys seen anything about that? Is it serious?
I think just an ankle sprain, but it hasn't been confirmed.
It didn't seem like it was like that big of a deal, but it probably will be. I'm guessing probably a few weeks before he probably feels somewhat normal. And so I mean, Kip Lewis looked good. It's just. And then Gentry Williams is kind of banged up again, and the communication also, like on that 4th and 6, you could tell that not having Stutzman in there was a little tough for them to get everyone set. At the end of the day, I mean, Oklahoma had every opportunity, and in the long run, it might be good for Oklahoma to lose a game like this.
Can't say the same thing there. Ever since that Texas win, you have the bye, and then these past 2 weeks, it looks like a totally different team than the team you saw the first 5 games of the season. I don't know, but maybe this is what they needed to wake back up. Because at the end of the day, I was really down at first. I mean, I was, I'm immediately the biggest negative person after a loss like that. Just, the season's over. We suck, all of that stuff. And then, give me 10 minutes and I start to, think about it again and we're okay. My buddy Alex Reyes, a friend of the show, texted me and he was like, dude, we're still fine. And, he kind of brought me back to earth. So shout out Alex. But, everything is still in front of this team. If you go 11-1, then you obviously make the Big 12 title game. You win the Big 12 title game. You're still very much alive. Someone's going to lose. Ohio State and Michigan play each other. That they're, one of those is going to lose. Ohio State could lose tonight. Washington could lose tonight. It's a long season. You gotta get back to playing the first 5 weeks of the season football, not these last 2 weeks.
And I know we're talking a lot about like what went wrong, but I think Lebby had a lot of things you could definitely put against them. But today, and we talked about it during the pregame or the preview, running the ball was very effective, and I don't think that was just a product of the weather. It seems like the issue so far on the offensive side of the ball is they rotate just as much as our defense does, and maybe you guys disagree, and maybe the people in the comment section disagree, but an offense typically, at least in my recollection, doesn't rotate this much. You might rotate your receivers, occasionally throw in a different offensive lineman, but there were series where it was Sexton and Cade Green in at the offensive line. Sometimes Troy Everett was there instead of McCade Mettauer. Like, the offensive line still seems to be in shambles on who is the best unit. You're always rotating receivers, the running back, even though it was Tawi Walker most of the time. Sometimes you see Sawchuk and Javonte there. Like, there still seems to be a lot of question marks for the coaching staff, and I don't know if it's Lebby like telling the offensive staff like, we got to rotate these guys in, either because of a fear of a transfer after the season or NIL. Like, there's a lot of things that go into it, I'm sure, but it's not as solidified of a group as you would assume, especially 7-8 games in, where you think, all right, these are my 5 best offensive linemen, and the only time I'm going to rotate is if one gets hurt, tweaks something, or is like gassed after having to run down the field on a long run play or something. See, just a lot of question marks.
I think it's because they don't have any unit that's separated themselves. I think that's what it comes down to. They don't. If they had 5 dominant players, they would not be rotating right now. Those best 5 would be playing every snap, assuming they're not hurt. I'm not really sure. And then also, like Savion Byrd got that holding penalty that killed the drive right out of the start of the second half. I mean, there's just so many things that, just little things. It's the little details. I think they got a little full of themselves, honestly. And I'm just as guilty buying in after beating Texas. Like, man, we are for real. And it seems like it's the same thing every year, excluding last year. Last year was just a total disaster. But it's the same thing. It's you get roped in, you start, OU's just good enough and good enough long enough to make you start to believe. And then once they get you to that point, they make a statement win, and then they choke.
I think
it's the same thing.
I don't know. I agree. That sucks, but I think at the same time, we might be being a little bit unfair here. Just like you said, we were 6-7 last year, horrible. I think before the season started, if we would have said, "Hey, you're going to be 7-1 going into Bedlam," I think all three of us would have signed up for that. With the Big 12 title in line, the improvement is huge. They're building in the right direction. It's just it sucks to be 7-0 and get all excited and have that happen. But again, I think we're going to be fine.
Where do you guys think Oklahoma can, after today, do we still have feelings that this is a playoff caliber team? Is the Big 12 championship and a New Year's Six Bowl the highest they'll get? What do you guys think?
It's definitely still a playoff team. There aren't that many dominant football teams out there this year. I mean, when you look at it,
a little bit of help now, but yeah, I think it's still a playoff caliber team.
I mean, when you look at it, you got Ohio State and Michigan that'll play. Georgia's got to play in the SEC championship. You've got the Pac-12 that's going to, you got Oregon looming, but they're going to play each other again. Washington hasn't looked great last week, and I know they're in a dogfight right now with Stanford. Alabama's got some tough opponents. I think it's all going to shake out, and it's going to be Oklahoma and Texas sitting there playing for the Big 12 title and with a chance to go play in the playoffs. But also the thing is, next year, when we go to the 12-team format, this loss isn't going to sting quite as bad. If Oklahoma loses halfway through the year, and it's going to be like, well, okay, but we can still get an at-large bid type deal, and it's going to have a total different feeling next year. But I still think that they can make the playoffs, especially now that Michigan's probably not going to be stealing signs anymore. They might not be quite as good.
There you go. And I agree with you guys. This team is definitely still a playoff team. It seems like the live stream doesn't agree, but it's one game, and it's not like you lost it to someone you shouldn't have.
You did lose someone you shouldn't have.
Yeah, you should.
I don't think so. Before the season,
we should have won that game.
You could have won that game, but it's not like you lost to, dipshit State that had no business being in the game.
We didn't lose to Cincinnati or Houston or something, but yeah, we definitely should have beaten Kansas. We were the better team. It sucks.
Yeah, that's fair. It just now there's no room for error. You have to not only win, but in some of those ones you got to blow people out, especially in the next two road games. These last two road games, if you can. Now Bedlam looks a little bit scary because it seems like the biggest thing with this team is if they don't start with a lead, they don't know how to play in a tight game. Because even in Texas, they got the pick, ended up getting that opening drive touchdown. Then they were playing with a little bit of a lead, even though it wasn't a huge lead. Had a lead to start the game, kind of got the offense in rhythm. But today, you saw you obviously started 14-0. Then it was kind of climbing out of a hole. It worked out, but then there was the rhythm wasn't there that the offense normally has, and yeah, the weather played into it, but to a large extent, I think you can put it more so on they don't really know how to play from behind quite yet. And I don't know if it's so much the play calling. I think that the playing from behind part is definitely more so the players. Got to execute. There's not the one guy that's going to come up with a big play yet. At least not someone for sure will come up with that big play. Dylan Gabriel, probably not in the Heisman contention, at least for maybe he becomes a finalist at the end of the year, but it's tough to see him as the Heisman winner at the end of the year after today's game.
No, I never. He's good. I just, I don't know if he's going to be able to win the Heisman even in a perfect season. But Michael Penix is really slowing down too. And Caleb Williams, obviously, it's not great for him. Probably the best player in college football is probably what Gus Johnson says, Maserati Marv. Marvin Harrison is.
That guy's pretty good.
He's incredible.
Are the Patriots going to suck enough to get him?
I'd be ecstatic if they could. But I mean, I think we're gonna beat the Fish tomorrow. So it is what it is.
I don't even care. If the Dolphins lose by 100 tomorrow, it is what it is. Today sucks. We're gonna be okay. Let's go watch Stanford and Wisconsin try to do some crazy stuff tonight too.
It's a good little short live here. Appreciate everyone joining. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, comment, share, turn on the notification bell. We will be live again on Tuesday. This was just a quick reaction because today's game was definitely something that needed to be talked about.
We're fine. We'll catch you on the Big 12.
Sure?
100%.
You're sure? Because you texted me like the season's over right after the game.
I just said that. You give me 10 minutes after a loss, and I start to think rationally again. And plus, just being in the atmosphere I was in made me want to. No, I want to. Yeah, we're good.
All right. Well,
See y'all.
see you guys.